The moment it happened, the entire village of Ogbi stood still. People gathered around Baba Tunde's compound, whispering in fear and disbelief. His wife, Mama Ronk, screamed like a woman possessed, tearing at her wrapper and rolling on the ground. Baba Tunde lay there, shaking violently, foam coming out of his mouth, his eyes rolling backward like a goat about to die. What shocked everyone most was that all he had done was eat just food. A steaming plate of egusi soup with pounded yam, brought to him by the woman everyone knew as his side chick, the beautiful and proud Sade from the next village. They said he shouted, "Oh! This food sweet die." And the next moment, he was on the ground, his body jerking like someone fighting unseen spirits. Women screamed. Children cried. Men stood frozen. No one dared to touch him. And Mama Ronk, trembling, looked at the pot her husband had refused to eat from, her own pot, untouched and cold since morning. Nobody knew whether he would live or die that night. But one thing was clear, something terrible had followed him home, something beyond flesh and blood. Now let me take you back to how it all began. Before all this madness, Baba Tunde was one of the most respected men in Ogbi's village. He was a tall, dark man with strong arms and a wide smile that could make even the hardest heart soften. He was a farmer, and not just any farmer, his yam barns were fuller than anyone's in the whole region. During harvest season, he was the pride of the community. People called him Baba Tunde Aloko Oko, meaning the man whose hoe never sleeps. He was married to Mama Ronk, a calm and hardworking woman. She was not the most beautiful in the village, but she had a heart of gold. She woke up before dawn to cook, fetch water from the stream, tended to their farm, and took care of their two children, Ronk and Femi. Life was peaceful, filled with laughter, until that woman entered their lives, Sade. Sade was everything Mama Ronk was not. Light-skinned, with dimples that appeared each time she smiled, and eyes that could melt a man's sense. She sold palm wine at the village market and was known for her sweet voice and sharp tongue. People said she could charm a snake if she wanted to. And Baba Tunde, who should have known better, fell into her trap like a fly to honey. It started small. One evening after market, Baba Tunde stopped by Sade's stall to buy a calabash of palm wine. She smiled at him and said, "Oh Baba Tunde, no big farmer like you go make my business grow oh." He laughed, thinking it was just a friendly compliment. But that day, Sade gave him a free cup of wine, and from that small cup, his downfall began. Soon, he began visiting her every evening. He would say he was going to check his traps in the forest, but everyone knew where he was going. Sade's small hut stood by the path leading to the old stream, quiet, hidden, and perfect for secret meetings. She would serve him warm meals, jollof rice with fried plantain, spicy pepper soup, or steaming pounded yam with bush meat that melted in his mouth. And each time he ate, he would say, "Sade, your hand sweet pass my wife own. I no fit lie." At first, Sade laughed shyly, pretending not to notice his growing attachment. But soon, she began to feed his pride and greed. "Baba Tunde," she would say, "you be big man, you deserve enjoyment. Some women know sabi take care of their man. Me, I know how to keep man happy." Meanwhile, Mama Ronk noticed the change. Her husband no longer ate her food. Even when she cooked his favorite, egusi soup with smoked catfish, he would taste it and push it aside. "Ah, Baba Tunde, wetin happen?" she asked one evening, her voice trembling. He sighed and said, "Ronk, you don't put enough pepper again. You sabi say I like my soup hot. Your cooking done dey fall my hand these days." She tried harder. She fetched fresher vegetables, used the biggest fish, even asked her neighbor Momangozi for new recipes. But no matter what she cooked, Baba Tunde would grumble and complain. Sometimes, he didn't even come home to eat. The village began to talk. The women whispered behind her back, "And, you never hear. Baba Tunde dey chop for Sade house now oh. Them say that one sabi cook like spirit." Mama Ronk pretended not to hear, but each whisper pierced her heart like a spear. One day, when she could no longer bear the shame, she went to see the village priest, Baba Iroko, a wise old man whose heart was filled with charms and courage. He looked at her and asked, "Mama Ronk, what brings you here with tears in your eyes?" She fell to her knees. "Baba, my husband know they eat my food again. Every day, he dey go that Sade house. I no wetin she use hold am. I don't tire." Baba Iroko closed his eyes for a moment, then muttered, This matter pass ordinary eye." He threw cowries on the ground, studied their pattern, and nodded slowly. "There is power in food, my daughter. Some food feed the belly, some feed the spirit. The woman your husband goes to, her cooking no be ordinary." Mama Ron gasped. "You mean say she dey do juju?" The old priest didn't answer directly. He simply said, "You must be wise. Don't confront her. Don't fight her with anger. If your husband wants her food, let him eat. But make sure when he returns home, you pray before he sleeps. Pray hard, because spirit wey dey follow him fit come inside your house." Mama Ronk nodded, though her heart was still heavy. Meanwhile, Sade had started demanding more from Baba Tunde. "Now every day you go they come chop and go," she said one evening, swaying her hips as she stirred her pot of ogbono soup. "When you go build small shop for me. You get plenty money now." Baba Tunde, half drunk with palm wine and love, smiled lazily. "Don't worry, my sweet Sade. I go do You deserve everything." "Talk be cheap," she replied, pouting playfully. "If you really love me, do something for me." That was how the foolish man decided to build her a small food shop, right in front of the village cemetery. The place was quiet and cheap, and he said spirits don't buy food, so it was perfect. People warned him. Even his friend, Okon, said, "Baba Tunde, you won't build shop for woman near cemetery. You dey craze. That place no clean." But he waved it off. "Abeg leave matter, Okon. Not just shop. Nothing go happen." He built a shop in less than a month. Sade began selling food there, hot, delicious meals that brought travelers and farmers alike. People started saying her soup tasted like heaven itself. But unknown to everyone, that shop carried something dark, something that did not belong among the living. The first sign came one night when Sade said she heard voices behind the shop, whispering her name. She told Baba Tunde, but he laughed it off. "Now your mind dey play trick on you, my dear. No spirit go fit harm you when I dey by your side." But that night, when he got home, he dreamed of shadows standing at the edge of the cemetery, watching him, whispering his name too. He woke up sweating. And from that day, strange things began to happen. The next morning, all the chickens in his compound were found dead, eyes wide open as if they had seen something terrifying. The goats refused to eat, and even the family cat hissed at him whenever he came close. Still, Baba Tunde didn't stop going to Sade's place. Instead, he began to spend even more time there, eating her food and sleeping in her hut. Mama Ronk wept silently every night. She didn't know what else to do. She only prayed. Then came the day of the harvest feast, the very day everything changed forever. Sade had cooked her special egusi soup with snail and bush meat. Baba Tunde sat before her, smiling like a child. "Oh, Sade, if heaven gets food like your own, I no mind die there," he joked. He took the first swallow, then another, then suddenly, his face twisted. He dropped his spoon. "Sade, this food," he gasped, clutching his chest. Before anyone could move, his body began to shake violently. His eyes rolled back, foam poured from his mouth, and he fell to the ground. Sade screamed. The villagers came running. And that was how Baba Tunde, the man who preferred his side chicks cooking over his wife's, met something beyond this world. But that was only the beginning. Because that night, something else happened, something even the bravest man in Ogbis could not explain. That night, Ogbi's village did not sleep. The air was heavy, thick like smoke from a burning forest. Everyone gathered around Baba Tunde's compound, old women whispering prayers, children clutching their mothers' wrappers, and men standing silently, waiting for news. Inside the house, Baba Tunde lay still on his raffia mat, his eyes closed, his breathing shallow. The village healer, Baba Iroko, sat beside him, fanning a small clay pot that burned herbs and leaves that gave off a strong bitter smell. Mama Ronk knelt at her husband's side, her eyes swollen from crying. Baba Iroko, I beg, she begged, her voice trembling, no let my husband die. Even if him offend me, I no want see die like goat. Baba Iroko didn't answer at first. He was watching Baba Tunde closely, as if waiting for something. Suddenly, Baba Tunde's eyes flew open, and he sat up sharply. His body shook like something invisible was pulling him backward. Then, with a deep, strange voice that didn't sound like his, he said, "She called me, she said I must finish it." Everyone gasped. Mama Ronk screamed and moved back. "Who called you?" Baba Iroko demanded. But Baba Tunde didn't answer. He fell back, shaking violently again. Foam came from his mouth. Then he went limp. Baba Iroko quickly grabbed the calabash of water mixed with herbs and splashed it on him while chanting words no one understood. After a long while, Baba Tunde stopped shaking, and his breathing steadied. He was alive, but barely. When it was finally quiet, Baba Iroko spoke softly, "This man has eaten something not of this world. The woman he goes to, Sade, she no cook that food alone." The crowd outside began to murmur. "What does he mean?" someone asked. Baba Iroko looked at Mama Ronk. "Your husband has tied himself to a spirit, one that lives near the cemetery. That woman used food to bind his soul. What he ate tonight was not just soup. It was a covenant." Mama Ronk gasped. "Covenant?" "Yes," Baba Iroko nodded. "He has fed with the dead." Earlier that same day, before the incident, Sade had been acting strangely. Her neighbors said they saw her talking alone in front of a shop near the cemetery. Some even claimed she was pouring palm oil on the ground and laughing softly, as if responding to someone invisible. When one old woman passing by greeted her, Sade didn't answer, she only smiled, her eyes blank. That was the day she made the special egusi soup. The pot she used wasn't her usual one. It was an old, blackened pot that had been kept behind the shop, covered with dust. No one knew where she got it. Some said a traveler gave it to her as a gift. Others whispered that she got it from a woman who lived beyond the river, the one villagers called Aya Oren, the mother of the spirits. Whatever the truth was, that pot carried something dark. When Sade cooked that day, the wind didn't blow. The birds didn't sing. Even the leaves on the tree stood still, as though the world was holding its breath. And when she served the food to Baba Tunde, her smile was strange, almost proud. Back at Baba Tunde's compound, Baba Iroko told everyone to stay inside until morning. "No one must step outside tonight," he warned. "Because when a man eats with spirits, those spirits may come to finish their meal." Mama Ronk locked her children in their room and stayed awake beside her husband, holding a small oil lamp. Baba Tunde lay still, his skin cold and his lips moving slightly as if he was whispering in his sleep. Then, around midnight, a sound came from outside, soft at first, like footsteps on dry leaves. Tack, tack, tack. The lamp flickered. Mama Ronk's heart began to pound. She slowly got up and peeped through the small window. The moonlight shone faintly on the path leading to the gate, and what she saw made her blood run cold. There, by the gate, stood Sade. But she didn't look alive. Her eyes glowed faintly like burning coal, her skin pale and shining like a fish's scales. She was holding a calabash, the same one Baba Tunde had eaten from earlier. "Sade," Mama Ronk whispered, frozen with fear. Sade turned slowly, as if she heard her name, and smiled, but her smile was twisted, unnatural. Then she spoke in a voice that echoed like two people speaking at once. "Tell him to come and finish his food." Before Mama Rong could scream, the lamp went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Baba Tunde suddenly sat up, his eyes wide open and glowing faintly. "She's calling me," he whispered. "I must go." Mama Rong grabbed his arm, shouting, "No. You go nowhere." He pushed her off easily, his strength unnatural, and began walking toward the door like a man in a trance. She screamed, holding onto his leg, but he dragged her across the floor. The children woke up crying, and the neighbors rushed out, shouting, "Baba Tunde! Stop!" Okon yelled, running forward. But when he touched Baba Tunde's shoulder, a burning pain shot through his arm, and he fell back screaming. Everyone froze. Baba Tunde opened the door, and outside, Sade was waiting, her face calm, her eyes fixed on him. She stretched out her hand and said softly, "Come." He stepped forward. Then, suddenly, Baba Iroko appeared from the darkness, holding a small gourd filled with white powder. With one swift motion, he flung it at the two of them and shouted ancient words. The powder burst into the air, glowing faintly. Sade screamed, a high, piercing sound that made the air tremble. Her body began to dissolve like smoke in the wind. Baba Tunde fell to the ground, shaking violently once again. The villagers ran to him, but Sade was gone. Baba Iroko knelt beside Baba Tunde and said, "This battle never ends. The food he ate has bound his spirit to that woman. Until the covenant is broken, he no go ever be free." Mama Rong cried out, "What can we do?" The old man looked up at the sky, then back at her. "To break the covenant, you must find where the food came from, the pot she used. Until that pot is destroyed, the spirit go keep calling him." The villagers murmured among themselves. The pot, the cursed pot that Sade used, was still at the shop near the cemetery. And so, before dawn, Baba Iroko gathered a small group of men, Okon, 2 hunters, and Mama Rong herself, to go and find it. But everyone was afraid. As they reached the edge of the cemetery, a cold wind began to blow. The air smelled strange, like burnt palm oil mixed with decay. In the distance, they saw the small food shop standing quiet and dark, the door slightly open, as if waiting for them. Mama Rong held a lamp close to her chest, her lips trembling in prayer. "Baba Iroko," she whispered, "are you sure this thing no go harm us?" The old priest didn't answer. He only said, "Hold your breath when we enter. Don't let the spirit smell your fear." They stepped into the shop. The air inside was colder than outside. The pot sat on the table, blackened, and covered with a lid. A faint hum, like a woman's voice singing, came from it. Baba Iroko walked slowly toward it. He lifted the lid, and what they saw inside made everyone stagger back. Inside the pot wasn't food, it was blood. Thick, dark, and still moving, as though alive. Floating on top of it was a piece of pounded yam, shaped like a human heart. Before anyone could move, the ground beneath the shop began to shake. From behind the walls came whispers, soft at first, then louder, chanting one word over and over. "Tunde! Tunde! Tunde!" The lights flickered. Mama Rong screamed. Okon dropped his torch. And just as Baba Iroko raised his staff to strike the pot, a cold hand shot out from beneath the table and grabbed his ankle. He froze. The hand tightened, pulling him down. Then, from the shadows beneath the table, something began to crawl out, something that looked like Sade, but not quite human anymore. Her eyes glowed brighter. Her voice was soft and cold. "You shouldn't have come here." And before anyone could move, the lamp went out. The moment the lamp went out, darkness swallowed everything. The air turned ice cold, and all they could hear was heavy breathing, not from anyone among them, but from something else. Mama Rong screamed, "Jesus! Baba Iroko. Where you dey?" But there was no answer, only the sound of feet scrambling and something dragging along the dusty floor. Then, suddenly, a spark flared. Baba Iroko had struck his flint, and the lamp flickered back to life. Its weak flame revealed a sight that froze everyone where they stood. Right in front of them was Sade, or what used to be her. Her body was pale like ash, her eyes white, glowing faintly like fireflies, and her mouth stretched too wide, showing blackened teeth. Her feet didn't touch the ground, she hovered just above it, swaying slowly like smoke. Okon fell to his knees, trembling. "I beg, no near me, oh." Sade turned her gaze toward him, and her voice came out like two people speaking at once, one soft, one growling deep. "You come to break what cannot be broken." Baba Iroko stepped forward, his old voice steady. "Spirit of the dead, go back to your dwelling. You no get power over the living again." Sade laughed, the sound sharp, echoing like iron striking iron. "You think you fit separate him from me? He ate my food. He belongs to me now." As she spoke, Baba Tunde's name began to echo softly through the room, Tunde. Tunde. Tunde, the walls themselves whispering it. Mama Rong began to cry. "Please. Leave my husband. No me be him wife." Sade's glowing eyes turned to her. You way he know they look again. You way him spirit don't reject. You way him belly know they crave." She hissed, "He chose me." With that, the humming inside the pot grew louder, the thick blood inside bubbling like something alive. Baba Iroko raised his staff high and shouted ancient words. The air began to vibrate. The spirit shrieked, clutching her head, and the walls shook so hard the roof almost caved in. "Destroy the pot," Baba Iroko shouted. "Now." Mama Ronk, trembling, grabbed a heavy stone from the floor and lifted it over her head. But before she could strike, the spirit screamed again and threw her across the room with invisible force. She hit the wall and slumped, gasping for breath. The two hunters tried to shoot their dang guns, but the guns misfired, the powder hissing and dying in their hands. Then, with lightning speed, the spirit lunged toward Baba Iroko. Her hands became long and black, like the claws of a vulture. She grabbed his staff, and it burst into flames instantly. "Oh!" Baba Iroko shouted, falling to his knees. Okon rushed forward, screaming, "No kill am," and swung his machete wildly. It cut through air, but where the blade passed, black smoke trailed. The spirit turned toward him, her face twisting with rage. "You dare touch me!" She waved her hand, and Okon flew backward, hitting the door so hard it broke open. The cold night air rushed in from outside, carrying with it the faint cries of night owls and the smell of decay. The open door led straight to the cemetery, where shadows moved like waves. The spirit turned toward the door and began to drift backward toward the graves, her voice echoing softly, "Come, Tunde, come to where your heart belongs." Baba Iroko, clutching his burnt hand, shouted weakly, "She dey call am again. If she reach the graveyard with that pot, we go lose am forever." Mama Ronk, though still dizzy from the fall, forced herself up. "We no go lose him. Not my husband." She grabbed the heavy stone again and staggered toward the pot. The spirit turned sharply, her eyes blazing. "Don't you dare!" But Mama Ronk shouted, "In the name of the living God," and slammed the stone down on the pot with all her strength. The pot shattered. A burst of light filled the room, blinding, hot, and loud like thunder. Everyone fell to the ground. The walls cracked, dust filled the air, and for a few seconds, everything went silent. Then the lights faded. When Mama Ronk opened her eyes, the shop was in ruins. The pot was gone, turned completely into ash. The hunters were lying on the ground, coughing. Okon groaned from where he lay by the broken door. Baba Iroko was sitting up, breathing heavily, his face wet with sweat. But Sade. Sade was gone. Or so they thought. Because just then, they heard a soft laugh, faint, but chilling. It came from outside, near the graves. Mama Ronk slowly turned her head toward the open door. And there she was, Sade, standing among the tombstones, her figure half fading like mist. She was smiling again, her voice now softer. Comma. You destroy my pot, she said, but you cannot destroy the bond. He tasted me. He carries me. I live inside him now. Then she raised her hand, and the ground beneath her began to crack open. From it came black smoke that spread across the cemetery, swirling and rising like a storm. Baba Iroko shouted, "Everybody run." But before anyone could move, they saw something in the smoke, faces, dozens of them, pale and weeping, whispering in pain. The spirits of the dead were rising, drawn to the same energy that bound Sade and Baba Tunde. The air grew heavier. The smell of decay was unbearable. Mama Ronk screamed, "Where Baba Tunde? Where my husband?" Baba Iroko looked around. Baba Tunde was no longer there. They rushed back toward the village, shouting his name, but no answer came. Then, faintly, from the distance, near the cemetery, they heard a voice singing softly. It was Baba Tunde. He was singing Sade's favorite song. They turned back and saw him walking slowly toward the cemetery, his eyes half open, his steps weak but steady. Mama Ronk ran toward him, crying, "Tunde! No go! I beg, come back home." But he didn't stop. He was humming, smiling faintly, his voice distant. Behind him, the black smoke curled like arms waiting to embrace him. Mama Ronk tried to reach him, but an unseen force pushed her back. She fell, rolling on the ground. The hunters pulled her away as she screamed his name. Baba Tunde reached the edge of the cemetery, still smiling faintly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Sade, my Sade." And before anyone could grab him, he stepped into the mist. Then, silence. The mist swallowed him whole. The ground trembled once again, then stilled. The black smoke began to fade, leaving only the cold night air and the faint echo of laughter drifting through the trees. Mama Ronk collapsed to the ground, wailing, "Tunde. My husband. You don't leave me finish." Baba Iroko knelt beside her, shaking his head sadly. "The spirit don't take him. But the battle never end. Until dawn breaks, his soul still fit be saved if we find his body before the cock crow." Okon swallowed hard. "But how we go find am inside that graveyard? That place no be for living people." The old man sighed. "Then tonight, we go walk where the dead walk." He picked up his staff again, its tip still glowing faintly. The moonlight shone on their faces as they turned toward the cemetery, the place no one in Ogbi's ever dared to enter at night. But that was where Baba Tunde's fate now rested. And as they stepped into the darkness, the wind whispered softly through the trees, "Tunde. Tunde." The wind that blew that night did not feel like the wind of the living. It carried whispers, voices that sounded like the cries of children, the laughter of old women, and the groans of something ancient and restless. The moon hung low, round and red like blood, casting long, trembling shadows across the cemetery. Baba Iroko led the way, his staff glowing dimly with a white light. Each step he took crunched over dry leaves and old bones. Behind him walked Mama Ronk, her hands shaking but her face set in determination. Okon followed closely, clutching a torch and muttering prayers under his breath. The two hunters brought up the rear, guns slung across their shoulders, eyes darting left and right. "Baba Iroko," Mama Ronk whispered, "you sure say this thing go work? This place no pure at all." The old priest did not answer immediately. He stopped near a grave covered in thick weeds and said, "When a man eats the food of the dead, his spirit goes where his meal came from. We must find the one who served it, or what remains of her, before the first cock crows. If not, Tunde belong to them forever." A cold shiver ran through everyone. They moved deeper into the cemetery. The further they went, the stranger everything became. The air grew colder, the wind stopped, and the world felt quiet, too quiet. Even their footsteps made no sound anymore. Then Okon whispered, "Wait, you dey hear that?" Everyone froze. From somewhere ahead came a faint voice, singing softly. It was Baba Tunde's voice. "My sword, sweet as honey, soft like palm wine." Mama Rong gasped. "Not him. That's my husband." She ran forward before anyone could stop her. "Wrong. Wait!" Baba Iroko shouted. But she didn't stop. Her wrapper flew behind her as she ran between the crooked tombstones, the sound of her bare feet echoing in the cold night. Then, suddenly, she saw him. Baba Tunde stood in the middle of a wide-open clearing, the very heart of the cemetery. Around him burned small blue flames, floating in the air like candles held by invisible hands. His body was covered in white chalk markings, his eyes half closed, his face peaceful, almost smiling. And standing beside him was Sade. Only this time, she looked more human, dressed in a white wrapper, her skin glowing faintly, her hair loose and floating as if underwater. She held his hand gently, like a bride on her wedding night. "Oh Tunde," she said softly, "now you are mine forever. No more pain. No more hunger. Just me and you." Mama Rong's heart broke. "Tunde. No, listen to she be spirit. Come home." Sade turned slowly, her smile fading. "Home? What home? The man done reject you long ago. You know see say his spirit no dey your side again. You should let him rest." Mama Rong fell to her knees, weeping. "He no fit rest with you. You be spirit. You be death." Baba Tunde opened his mouth, his voice distant. "Rong, go home. I dey fine here. She no be evil, she just wants me to stay." Baba Iroko and the others caught up, panting. "Don't listen to her voice," the old priest warned. "She dey use his soul sing for death." Sada's eyes blazed. "Old man, you meddle too much." The flames around them flared higher. The air began to twist, the ground shaking as ghostly figures rose from the earth, men, women, even children, their faces pale and hollow. They surrounded the living, whispering and reaching out with cold hands. Mama Rong screamed, clinging to Baba Iroko. The priest raised his staff, chanting words in a language older than any of them. The spirits recoiled, hissing. A beam of white light shot from his staff and formed a circle around them. Sade hissed in fury. "You cannot take him." Her body rose into the air, her voice echoing across the cemetery. "He ate from my hand. His spirit belongs to me." Baba Iroko shouted back, not while the living still breathed his name. He turned to Mama Rong. "Call him. Use his name. Remind him who he be." Mama Rong wiped her tears and began shouting, "Tunde. Baba Femi. You hear me? No me, Rong. Your wife. The woman wey stay with you when you no get nothing. Remember your children." Baba Tunde's face twisted. He stepped back, clutching his head. "Oh. My head. My head dey burn." Sade screamed. "Stop. He is mine." But Mama Rong kept shouting, louder this time, her voice cracking, "You promise me for Shrine of Oyomo. You say till death do us part. You no fit leave me for graveyard, Tunde." Something broke inside him. He fell to his knees, gasping. The blue flames flickered and dimmed. Sada's body began to shake, her glow fading. She screamed, her voice no longer sweet but monstrous. "No. You cannot take him." Baba Iroko raised his staff again and slammed it on the ground. A deep rumble shook the earth. The circle of light brightened, and the spirits around them began to wail, vanishing into mist one by one. Sade tried to reach Baba Tunde, but her hand passed through the light like smoke. She let out one last cry, a scream so sharp it cracked the air, then burst into a cloud of black dust that scattered into the wind. Silence. Only the sound of crickets returned. Baba Tunde collapsed to the ground, unconscious. The white chalk marks on his skin faded slowly. Mama Rong crawled to his side, holding his head on her lap, weeping softly. "You hear me, Tunde? I beg, wake up. Don't leave me alone." Baba Iroko knelt beside them and poured water from his gourd onto Baba Tunde's lips. If his soul never cross, he go wake before cockcrow. They waited in silence. Minutes passed. Then, a faint cough. Baba Tunde opened his eyes slowly, blinking at the sky. Where I dey?" Mama Rong screamed with joy and hugged him tight. "Oh, my husband. You come back." Baba Iroko smiled weakly. "Welcome back from the land of spirits, my son." Okon dropped his torch and sighed in relief. "Oh, I swear, I no go ever chop outside again." Everyone laughed weakly, tears and sweat mixing together. But as they turned to leave, Baba Iroko suddenly frowned. He looked back toward the graves, and his face went pale. "What is it?" Mama Rong asked, clutching her husband tighter. The old priest pointed his staff at the largest tomb in the center of the cemetery. The ground beneath it was cracked open, smoke rising slowly from it. From inside came a faint sound, not a scream, not a whisper, but laughter. Low, chilling laughter. Baba Iroko's voice trembled. "She no go rest. Sada's spirit no vanish completely. Something hold her here." He turned to Baba Tunde. "From now on, you must never eat outside your home again. Not from any woman, not even from your own friend. Because if that spirit find a way to return through your hunger, this time, she go come for all of us." The words sank into everyone's hearts. They left the cemetery quietly before dawn, the first cockcrow echoing faintly in the distance. The wind had stopped, but in the silence that followed, Mama Rong thought she heard something, a faint whisper carried on the breeze. "Tunde. I go wait." She shuddered and gripped her husband's hand tighter. The village of Ogbis returned to peace after that night. But the people never forgot what happened. Whenever a man boasted about another woman's cooking, the elders would shake their heads and say, "Remember Baba Tunde, the man we prefer him side chick soup pass him wife on." And they would whisper, "That kind sweetness fit cost you your soul." But deep inside the earth, beneath the cracked tomb in the cemetery, something still moved in the dark, something that was not yet done. The months that followed were strange for Ogbis village. On the surface, everything looked peaceful again. The crops grew tall, the markets buzzed with life, and the villagers laughed once more. But beneath that peace, there was fear, a quiet, watchful fear. No one walked near the cemetery after sunset. The elders warned every child never to take the short path by the graves. And as for Baba Tunde, he became a changed man. He stopped smiling as he used to. He no longer sang when working on his farm. Some nights, he would sit outside his hut, staring at the moon as though waiting for something or someone. Mama Rong tried everything to bring him back to himself. She cooked his favorite meals, told him stories, even brought their children to sing for him. But though he ate her food and said thank you, she noticed something strange: he never finished his meals. He would stop halfway, push the plate aside, and say softly, "It's sweet, but not the same." Each time he said those words, Mama Rong's chest tightened. One night, when the moon was bright and the air smelled of rain, she found him sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. "Tunde," she said quietly, sitting beside him, "you no sleep again." He shook his head. "Sleep no dey come. You still dey think of her." He didn't answer at first. Then he said, almost in a whisper, "Rong, when I close my eyes, I still dey hear her voice. She dey sing that same song where she sing the day before everything scatter. Sometimes, I even feel like she dey near me, like she dey watch. Mama Wrong's heart skipped. No dream. No let enter your mind again. Baba Iroko done already free you. But Baba Tunde only smiled weakly. Maybe some chains no fit break completely. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, something strange happened again. A soft humming filled the air, faint at first, then clearer. It was that same song. My sword, sweet as honey, soft like palm wine. Baba Tunde sat up slowly. The air was cold. The fire had gone out, yet the smell of fresh egusi soup filled the hut. He frowned and looked around. On the wooden table beside the door, there was a bowl covered with cloth. It hadn't been there before. His mouth went dry. He got up, trembling, and lifted the cloth. Inside the bowl was steaming hot egusi soup, thick, rich, with bush meat floating on top. For a long time, he just stared at it. Then, faintly, he heard her voice, not from outside, not from far away, but right beside his ear. Taste it, my love. He jumped, turning around, but saw nothing. The hut was empty, quiet. He stared at the bowl again. His stomach growled. The smell was sweet, too sweet. He whispered, "No, no, I can't." But his hand shook as he reached for the spoon. And then, the door burst open. Mama Wrong stood there, her face pale. "Tunde, don't touch it." He froze, spoon in midair. "Where that food come from?" she asked, trembling. I don't know. I just wake up, see I'm here." She rushed forward, grabbed the bowl, and threw it out the window. It landed in the dust, spilling the soup. At that moment, the wind outside howled like a screaming woman. The fire rekindled by itself, burning blue. A shadow moved across the wall, a woman's silhouette, long hair flowing, arms stretched. "Why you throw away my food?" the voice whispered. "He was hungry." Mama Wrong grabbed her husband's arm. You see, say she still dey here. That woman no go let you go." Baba Tunde covered his ears, shouting, "Leave me alone. I no want you again." But the shadow only laughed, long and slow. "You ate with me, my love. You no go ever forget my taste." Then the laughter faded, and the wind stopped. The next morning, they went straight to Baba Iroko's hut. The old man looked older than ever, his eyes sunken but still sharp. After hearing what happened, he sighed deeply. "I warned you. That spirit no vanish completely. She dey feed on your weakness, your memory, your hunger, your guilt. Until you face her spirit directly, she go continue to find you." Baba Tunde trembled. "But how? How I go face something wey no get body again?" The priest leaned forward. "You go return to the place where you first eat her food, that cursed shop near the cemetery. You go call her name 3 times before the rising sun, and then burn what remain of her there. Not only that fit break the tie." Mama Wrong frowned. "But that place done collapse since that night." "Yes," Baba Iroko said, "but her spirit still dey there. And if you delay, she go start taking from your blood next, through dreams, through sickness, through shadow." That night, they went again, Baba Tunde, Mama Wrong, Baba Iroko, and Okon, who refused to stay behind even though fear shook his bones. The path to the cemetery was quiet, the moon hidden behind clouds. When they reached the ruins of Soda's shop, only a few burnt walls remained. The air smelled faintly of ashes and palm oil. Baba Iroko placed a small clay pot filled with herbs in the center and lit it. Smoke rose, swirling like mist. "Call her," he said. "Call her name." Baba Tunde swallowed hard. His voice trembled. "Sade. Sade. Sade." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the wind began to blow again. From the shadows of the ruined wall, a shape began to form, first smoke, then a figure. it was her. Sade stood before them, her body glowing faintly, her face both beautiful and terrifying. "Tunde," she said softly, smiling, "you came back. I knew you would." He stepped back, shaking. "I no come back for you. I come to end this." She tilted her head, her smile fading. "End? There's no end for what we shared." Baba Iroko began to chant, his voice deep and rhythmic. The flames from the pot grew brighter. The wind roared, swirling around them like a storm. Sade screamed, her form flickering. "Stop it. You can't separate us. Burn it." Baba Iroko shouted. "Now." Mama Ronk pulled a small wooden charm from her wrapper, one the priest had given her, and threw it into the fire. The flames turned bright red. Sade screamed louder, her body splitting into shadows. Baba Tunde stepped forward, shouting above the noise, "Sade, I no be your husband. You trick me, you use me. I choose my wife, I choose life." The spirit stopped struggling. For a moment, her eyes softened. "Tunde," she whispered, "you go still remember me." Then she vanished, swallowed by the flames, leaving behind a faint scent of egusi and smoke. The fire went out on its own. Silence returned. Baba Iroko fell to his knees, panting. "It is done." Mama Rong burst into tears, hugging her husband tightly. Okon sighed loudly, dropping to the ground. "Huh! This kind woman no lesson for all man. From today, not only my wife's soup I go chop." Everyone laughed weakly through tears and exhaustion. The following morning, the village woke to the sound of birds singing again. For the first time in months, Baba Tunde smiled, a real smile. He hugged his children, helped his wife fetch water, and even went to the market with her. Peace returned to Ogbis. But that night, as they lay on their mat, Mama Ronk asked softly, "You think she truly go?" Baba Tunde looked at the window, where the moonlight poured in like silver. He smiled faintly. "She go. But I go never forget the lesson." He turned to his wife and said, "No man should ever let another woman cook for him with the heart." They both laughed quietly, holding each other close. Outside, the night was calm. But far away, deep inside the earth beneath the cemetery, the faintest sound echoed, like a woman humming a soft tune. "My sword, sweet as honey." And then silence. The villagers still tell the story to this day. Of the man who preferred his side chicks cooking over his wife's. And how what followed was truly unbelievable.